Welcome to another episode of the Advice First podcast. This is your host, Robert Clark. Today in the studio, I am joined by two of my favorite financial advisors in the world. Lucky enough to call them friends, business colleagues, and you've heard both of them on episodes before, but never the three of us together. So with that, you know, the co-host for the current season, Mr. Chris Ingram, here in the studio with us. And then we have none other than Jerry Citarella with us as well, who was my co-host for, in one of our first episodes of season 3.
Yeah, with Bree King.
Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Excited to have you in the studio on the podcast as a guest this time. You are a wealth of knowledge. And I think, you know, speaking from what Chris and I talked about and the reason that we wanted to get you on the podcast is you just have your background and where you've come to as a professional is at a caliber so high that we usually don't see that in the financial advising space. And I mean that sincerely because you're at a point now where you're helping other advisors grow their practices and just helping the community, right? Not so much worried about building your business. You're just out there doing good. You have a huge social media presence now. So you're doing a lot of great things.
Hey, end of show. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm very lucky and, you know, blessed, I guess, is the word a lot of people use, and I'll use it to be able to take my experiences and what I've learned over the many years, and not only have that allow me to have my business continue to grow, just, you know, organically, which is great, but also be able to pass some of that on to people, you know, and fortunately some of the people are willing to listen.
Yeah.
Others don't, but the ones who are willing to listen, I'm happy to spend as much time as I can. You know, one, just helping them be better in their business, and two, helping them kind of fast track things a little bit because, you know, we've been doing this a while and you make a lot of mistakes. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not mistakes. Maybe make some wrong turns and take a little more time to get to a place you wanted to be just because you thought there was maybe a faster way sometimes, which ends up being slower. So, yeah, whatever I can do to help, I'm here.
Listen, I've been a beneficiary of that advice when I've told you something that I was working on, and you're like, I wouldn't necessarily do it that way. Like, here's what's likely going to happen. Here's what I would do instead. And sure enough, I make those tweaks, and it saves a couple years or a couple angry clients off my back. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. And I think you know that I'll never not say something just to not say something. So,
100%.
You know, hopefully it comes across as constructive if it's criticism or helpful if it's not. But yeah. I'm definitely there to tell you, you know, my book series and radio show and everything else is called the Truth Helps series. So that's all we can do is tell it as we know it.
Yep. I love that. I'm sure it wasn't always this easy or this fluent. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in this business and on this journey.
Yeah, it's funny. I got started in this business accidentally, and I think you know the story. Maybe you probably don't remember. Yeah. So I was working in the studios. That's where my dad was. That's where my brother was. I was doing sound effects. Worked on Baywatch. So on a daily basis, I was staring at a 27, 30-foot screen with Baywatch running and reversing and running and reversing, and I was doing sound effects. Not a bad job as a 19, 20-year-old. Yeah. And then did that for a while. And the last movie I worked on was Stephen King's It. Very cool. Yeah. So if you watch that movie, there's a lot of noises and footsteps and bludgeoning with knives, which was actually, I think, for the knives and the bludgeoning, we used a turkey.
Makes sense.
And I enjoyed it. Great job. Fun. Good money, good benefits. But it just didn't feel right. And I didn't know what I was going to do, so I was trying to figure it out. I'm Italian. Every uncle, grandfather had a pinky ring. And I saw an ad in the paper that said sell gold. So I thought, hey, I'm going to go work at a jewelry store and get a discount on my required pinky ring. Nice. And I drove to Burbank and walked into this place, and there was no jewelry. But they were selling gold, silver, and currencies as an investment. And I thought, well, that's a strange plot twist, but let's try this out. So started working there and just loved the business, loved what we were doing. Didn't stay there long, just went to a couple other places that had some investment opportunities, which actually, again, kind of backtracking to your thing, learning really taught me something there because we were calling people on the phone, telling them how rich we were going to make them. And it really taught me that those get-rich-quick things, I'm not going to call it a scheme, it wasn't, but the promises and the the unrealistic expectations and those types of things just most of the time aren't there. Every once in a while, obviously, there is something that does come to fruition, but for the most part, we'll get more into that, I'm sure. So did that, and then got invited to get in the mortgage business with a friend of my grandfather's, who was a giant real estate agent, just winding down his career. Did mortgages for a while, and then the earthquake hit in '94, and kind of didn't work out for me in the mortgage business. Lost a bunch of escrows, and looked back around at what I was going to do, for the rest of my career, and thought, I really liked that investment planning thing, and I liked the residual income piece of it from a business standpoint. So I ended up interviewing with John Hancock, and then started with them and became the youngest sales manager in the country, and then took over an agency, and that was back in '95, and a couple changes since then, and now here I am.
Dang.
So it all started with the desire to get a pinky ring cheap.
Did you ever get that pinky ring?
Yeah, I did, and my wife just
she made you take it off.
No, she just it was so cheesy, I admit it. And it's really funny that it disappeared one day. And to this day, she still denies hiding it or selling it or whatever. But
guarantee it's shoved in the back of a sock drawer somewhere.
It's somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll find it one day. But yeah, I wore that thing for a lot of years.
So what do you think? Because it sounds like you really started to flourish as you hit that next stage with John Hancock.
Yeah.
What do you think was different about that vehicle than any of the other vehicles you had been in before that?
Well, I could really see a career there. I could see a business. I could really embrace and enjoy actually helping people versus just trying to sell them something. I was also around a lot of good people, and I had a ton of mentors. That's an old insurance-based company, and at that time, I was 26 or 27. There were people that had been in that business, and some people that have been with that company for 50 plus years. They used to actually walk around to people's homes and collect nickels and dimes for insurance premium. They call it a debit route or agency or something. So I think really kind of being around people that were just, that embedded and that genuine and that willing to share and help, and they knew I was serious about it. And so they, a couple of them took me under their wing. One guy in particular, John Reed, Army veteran. I don't even know, World War I, World War II. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Just a neat old guy that he was probably 70 at the time, and I was 26, and we became amazingly good friends. And he really showed me a lot of stuff. Yeah. So I think helping people versus selling them, and seeing a path to something that I could do the rest of my life got me motivated.
Yeah, so obviously that's morphed through the years. You were at an insurance company at the time. I kind of know your story, so for everybody else listening, how has that driven who you are today as a financial advisor?
Drove me a lot. Loved the company. John Hancock sponsored the Olympics. Cool company. Sent me to Boston a few times. Got to see the John Hancock Tower, top floor. Really cool. But the issue I had with it was whatever you needed, whoever you were, I was going to give you a John Hancock product.
Right.
And we had investments, and I was doing, investment planning as well. And even though they have good products and they're a strong company, it just didn't feel like one company could have the best thing for everybody. It's like going to a restaurant and, like, which kind of chicken dish do you want? Maybe I want steak, maybe I want shrimp, whatever. So I think that is really the main reason that I kind of ventured out a little bit to try to have more options, and I guess a bigger menu would be a way to say it.
Right. And you're one of the few, I shouldn't say the few, but there are a lot of financial advisors, you and I have talked about it, that are not what I would consider true financial advisors.
It's a very loosely used term.
And so you are one of those people throughout our entire career together, I've always said is a true financial planner. How much of that came from that John Hancock stage, or how much of that morphed into the next stage of your career where you decided, hey, I really want to offer all these different products and services and really make sure that I'm giving a well-rounded, comprehensive play of people?
Well, I'd say where I went immediately after really kind of cemented that. It was another insurance-based company that had a brokerage division where they said, hey, here's our products, but if you want to go outside, here's this menu of options for you. And I would use those options, and then I won't even say what company it was, but it's a story that I want to tell. I was doing some big planning for a pretty big client, and I got called in the office of the owner, and he said, we give you your office, we pay for your assistant, and you make copies and send stuff, and we don't charge you. And the way you're doing this doesn't really help the company as much as if you use the contract stuff.
Right.
So we had a conversation about it, back and forth. It wasn't going anywhere. So I said to him, listen, if you're willing to write down right now that I should do my planning based on your company's profits versus what I think is best for them, we can continue this conversation. And if not, then I don't want to talk about this anymore because I'm going to do what's best for my clients.
Right.
So that was kind of a line in the sand where I had to make a decision. Do I stay there and kind of do it, or do I take off? And in that moment is when I, really, probably within 3 to 6 months, stayed with the company but opened my own office just to kind of get away from it. And then from there, joined another company that was, more of an independent financial planning, and that's where I ended up meeting you.
Right.
Yeah, so that was a moment where I knew it, I felt it, I was trying to do it, but I knew where I was. It was always going to be this push for product versus planning, and that just did not feel right.
Right.
And by the way, he did not write it down and sign it. I knew he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there was a lot of that back then. I mean, one of the companies I was with previously, they were paying you enhanced or higher commissions for selling the company product versus an outside product. And I always tell the story of, they came out with a very specific company product at one time, and I thought it was a terrible product and terrible timing. And I remember them, putting me on an email list of, all the people that had sold a certain amount of that product in the office, and in big red letters at the bottom was Chris Ingram, $0 in bright red.
Good for you.
Pointing out that, I wasn't participating in all of that. But, a lot of those companies got in a lot of trouble for that stuff eventually because they were so busy pushing their own product and doing what was best for the company, not best for the client. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you, like me, that probably makes you proud now looking back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, there was one of the questions we talked about asking was proudest moments in your business or something like that.
Yeah, what is your greatest?
Yeah, so I want to, it kind of is this topic. So that same company, we had various contests, top life insurance, top disability, top long-term care, top annuity, top investment, whatever things we could do, you had prizes if you were. And I remember one time the owner coming in saying, hey, you're so close, so close. And I never really paid attention to it. But then when he was saying that, I looked at it and I said, wow, I'm not the top in anything, but I'm top 10% in everything. Mm-hmm. And it just really then again made me realize and made me proud that not by really anything conscious, but just by results, I was doing financial planning because I had people that were in all products, which is basically, give them what they need, not what I want to give them.
Absolutely.
So I'd say that was probably, one of my proudest moments in this business is the realization that I was doing the business the way I now know it should be done and not even really planning it or thinking about it. So pat myself on the back. I'm proud of good boy.
Yeah.
Good boy for doing it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Where were you, like, family wise, like at the time that you made that jump? That's kind of a leap of faith, right? That's not easy to do when you went to that independent world.
Well, yeah, before that is, when I made the first move from John Hancock to the other one is, I think, a year and a half after I got married.
Wow.
So just getting started.
Yeah.
And then when I made the jump to the independent world was, I think, 6 months after we had our twins. Wow. So my timing is bad. And then jumping ahead, when I opened my company, it was December 2007, basically the month that the 2008 crash started. Yeah. And then when Chris opened Prosperitas and I joined him, it was June 20, right in the middle of COVID. Yeah. So if I ever make a change again and things are smooth, I'm going to be really nervous. Yeah, so I was just starting my family and just getting going. And, my wife knew at the time that I would be home when I was home and just working. And I had some goals and some desires. And but it was big life moments, coincidentally, about the same time when I made big changes.
Yeah.
And you know what? You made it through every single one of them, right?
Made it, survived it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes those, trial by fire or, jumping in with both feet, like you made it work in all those situations, even though it was under the most difficult situations.
Yeah. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a song.
Yeah. Sing it.
No. Next interview.
If somebody wants to be your client, so you've talked a lot about you do financial planning, you spread it all out, but if a listener is thinking, hey, I think I like this guy, I'd really like to work with him, what would you tell the people is, the type of clients that you work with, the ideal client, somebody that fits what you think you can serve them best, given who they are?
Yeah, so I'll answer that two ways. One is because of the experience I have in so many different areas. We were doing high-end tax and estate planning. I started out helping young families. Some great stories, about that kind of stuff. So I would say I kind of help anybody, within reason. I'm not going to say I can do everything. That's ridiculous. But I do have kind of a focus, and I didn't really plan on it. It just kind of happened. People that are pretty close to retirement, pre-retirees or retirees. It just seems to be that's where, because I don't do any marketing, don't do any advertising, that's where most of the referrals come from. So I would kind of call that my sweet spot. I love working with young people. I get more excited working with a 22-year-old that I can help start their journey than I do with someone saying, I just retired and here's $5 million. So I get excited about that, and I always have to look at, from a business standpoint, what makes more sense. So I would say, to answer the question, most of what I do is pre and in retirement planning, but I'm very capable in all areas. And then obviously within the company, we have people that, if it's something that just doesn't make sense for me as a business now because we have limited time, we have great people in the office that I can bring in and just look over their shoulder and make sure that they're handled extremely well, but with someone else that may have a little bit more time to work with some people that just don't quite fit into my mold right now.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
What do you think is like the primary concern? Like someone's considering that retirement term and stage of life, right? When they set up a meeting with you, when they are in that conference room with you, like what's the problem you think that they're trying to solve or the concern on their mind?
It's really easy. It doesn't get real technical typically. It all kind of boils down to a question that they ask a lot, and even if they don't ask it, they're insinuating it. They just want to know they're going to be okay, right? I mean, what does that mean to me? Am I going to have enough money? Am I going to, it's just they want the comfort of knowing that in that moment when they say to their boss, I'm out of here, are they going to be okay? Are they going to make it? So there's nothing typically real specific. There's some specifics in there, but that's the general question. I think people, it's a big moment in life, and as we know, people are living longer and things are costing more, and a lot of people are very, very nervous about making that, because nobody wants to, I used to say no one at Carl's Jr. at 75 is there by choice. They just either left too early, didn't plan right, put some money into some investment that was ridiculous and lost most of it. So I just kind of always really kind of keep that in mind, that people typically don't need all the charts and graphs and blah, blah, all the stuff. They just want to know they're going to be okay. So I can do all of that to know comfortably that I can tell them you're going to be okay. And then hopefully they have a trust level with me that they'll accept that. Yeah. And it's really, I mean, Chris, you can probably attest to this. When you go through that meeting and they get to the point where they understand and accept that, you kind of see them just, and then they come in for the next meeting after they retire and they're all wearing shorts.
And flip-flops.
Yeah, shorts and flip-flops. I had you know exactly who it is, I can't say names. I had a banker client, and he was an old school banker. If you're talking 3-piece suit, the whole deal. And he used to say to me once in a while, how do you work without a tie on, and you don't wear jackets? And he retired, and the next time he came in, shorts and flip-flops.
No way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There is some consistency in that.
It's one of the prizes of retirement.
One of the prizes of retiring. Yeah, you get up and put whatever's on the floor from the night before.
That's awesome.
Love it. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's even people that are good at business or have been good at their career and they've worked their whole life, and even if they're gonna be fine, a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their brain around, once the income stops, how is this gonna possibly last forever, and how is it all going to work? And being able to either map that out for them and show them, or be able to explain to them how you're going to make it okay for them, and you're going to hold their hand every step of the way, it really does provide that level of weight off their shoulders and feeling like, okay, I've got somebody who's going to walk me through
Yeah,
this
and assure them that you're going to
me.
hold them accountable. I mean, I tell clients, like I'm sure you do, if you're making a big mistake, I'll let you know.
Absolutely.
We're in this together. And then also, a lot of it is making sure they're ready for retirement for the pieces they don't know yet. It's not just about the money. What are you going to do?
Right.
I've had a couple clients that didn't retire after we had conversations because I told them to do a test run. Funniest one, I had a gentleman, he could have retired 3 times with the money he had. But he just, I didn't know, don't know. But he's getting older. He loved to fish. His ankles were bad. He just wasn't, when are you going to do it? And his biggest concern was his home life. Could he be retired? And it's a sad story. So he had about, 8-10 weeks of vacation built up. I said, take 4 weeks of vacation and be retired. Okay? Just be retired. Don't take vacation and do something you wouldn't normally do. Just came back after, and he said about his wife, he said, man, I hate her. I'm never going to stop working. But the reality of it is he needed to know what it was going to look like. And that's an extreme example. And I think he's still working. That was about 4 years ago. But a lot of people don't realize, one, that sometimes their expenses go up dramatically. A lot of people retire, they're in their house the whole day. It's like when we were all COVID, we realized, I hate that lamp, I don't like that. So how much money was spent on construction and remodeling, and so they don't realize there's going to be some extra expenses. So I think really just kind of walking them through what we've experienced and what we've seen, and helping them understand that is actually a big part of it. Because they say, I'm going to retire. Great, what does that mean? What does it really mean? It just means I'm not going to go to work. Do you golf? Do you fish? Do you like to hike? Do you like to hunt? Yeah. What are your hobbies? What are you going to do? If you don't have something to do, it shortens your lifespan sometimes. The rocking chair takes years off your life.
Yeah, I've seen some clients work their way through the honey-do list. They have all these projects, kind of going back to the construction thing, all these projects they've been talking about doing, but they can't do it. They're too busy. They're working all the time. They finally retire. They work their way through the honey-do list. They get all the little things fixed, and then they don't have a hobby, and they sit around and they get miserable. And I've seen depression.
You see them
set
get depressed.
in.
You see them
think
gain
about
weight.
going back to work.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with their lives. So I'm like you. I have that conversation a lot of, okay, so what is the plan? What are we going to do? How are you going to enjoy these years? Not just about the money. What are you going to do that's going to provide benefit to you and your lifestyle through these retirement years? Because it can get really bad if you, like you said, don't have something to do.
And I think that's really important in pre-retirement. So if anyone's watching, retirement planning doesn't start 6 months or 3 months before they're going to give you your pension or your 401k. It really starts years before, both in terms of your health and also having something to do. So I always tell people that are a few years away from retirement, start getting a lifestyle, start getting something, figure out something to fill your days, and obviously spend some time with your spouse and see how you guys work together, and just figure it out and plan it rather than just going into it and wasting a few years doing nothing.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting because I feel like the title of retirement has morphed over time as we met with a prospect today who's like, I rather enjoy my lifestyle now versus saving up for some magical thing called retirement when I'm 65. And so it's like, from your feedback working with retirees who sometimes don't want to cut the cord on working, right? Like, what's your advice to those 40, 50-year-olds or 30-year-olds who kind of toy around with, do I save for retirement or do I put more emphasis on enjoying what we've built now?
Yeah, and that's just a typical kind of work-life balance question. I always say you have to live for today, understand you could be gone tomorrow, but also know most likely you're going to have a long future. So you really kind of have to adjust and do all of them. And I think the living for today is probably less about money than it is just a mindset. Because I think people just get on the wheel and they just grind and grind and grind and grind and don't enjoy themselves. Come home after work and complain about work. Go on the weekends, and I think it's more just what you do versus what you have and what you spend. Because we can all go somewhere and spend nothing and have an amazing time. But some people just get so laser-like focused on the future, they just don't enjoy themselves now.
And I say a lot too, if you have a plan in place and you know that you're setting the money aside to be able to accomplish the long-term goals that you have, then every dime outside of that, you don't have to feel so guilty every time you spend it.
Yeah,
So
it's your fun money.
Now you have a plan in place. Now you can take that fun money and go on the vacations and do all the things that you're worried about doing because you know you're taking care of the obligations that you have in the future.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, so better answer is it's a discussion to put a plan in place and say this is what's left, and then live around that budget.
Yeah.
This is why you get smart people and have them on the podcast, because now I get all this.
Let's see if we can go
advice.
find one.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Yep.
What do you think's the best piece of advice that you share with clients? Let's say, a lot of the pre-retirees, like, what do you think stands out the most? Obviously, they want to make sure they're okay, but what are you telling them that can reassure them?
Well, I'm letting them know there's going to be a lot of unknowns. I've never been retired, but I've retired a lot of people. I have third-generation clients, people that have inherited money, and we've seen a lot. And over the years, I've always really paid attention to what my clients tell me. In the moment, man, I'm 75 years old. I never thought, they say something like that, and you go, oh, what? You're about to give me some amazing advice. So I really just try to kind of pass that on. And one of the talks I used to do a lot, it's a long name, but it was Avoiding Your Wish I Would've's Messages from Your Future. And it was me sharing the conversations I've had with other people. And that talk starts out with a guy who was literally on his deathbed. I've told you this story, I think. He was on his deathbed. We both knew he was dying. We both made believe he wasn't. He was in the hospital. I said, I'll see you when you get out. And he gave me his last words. So privileged to have those types of opportunities. So I think a lot of it is just really kind of sharing those experiences with people and just trying to help them understand that they need to take this seriously. The money, of course. Without that, you can't retire. But it's also keeping yourself healthy. The three things that I hear most from people who are later in life is I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have saved more money. And last, and the one that kind of surprises people, well, initially, is I wish I would have taken better care of my health. Hey, I'm finally retired now, I have this money and all this time, but I can't do anything because I didn't pay attention 20 years ago.
That's interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're one of the, for anyone who doesn't know you, one of your strengths is hosting events or speaking, and I think that's why you've had so much success on social media. Have you always, has that always been your natural skill set of, being mingling, socializing, going off the cuff with these speeches that end up, resonating and being perfect for that climate and that audience? Like,
I appreciate that, but so honestly, in like large social circles, like networking meetings, that type of stuff, I don't like those. I find myself kind of sitting back. I prefer to be one-on-one or small group or in front of the group. And I don't know what that means about me. I don't really care, but that's just reality. So I can think back to when I was younger, taking some leadership roles. But really, one of the things I was doing before I got in this business was helped start a company, not qualified to do it at all. It was a multi-level marketing company. I was invited in with a couple other people. And my role was to train people on how to be successful in multi-level network marketing. Funny, right? Yeah. It's always hey, I'm failing miserably. I think I'll become a success coach. So I just remember I had a jacket that I think I may have borrowed. It might have been my dad's. It was too big, whatever. And stood up in front of this room of dozens and gave a speech. And everybody went, wow, thank you, and clapped. And I went, that was kind of cool. And then in 92 in our kind of related industries is the first time I ever did a seminar, and I just really enjoyed it. And then I've had the opportunity to speak at different events over the years. The largest group was about 4,000 people at a nonprofit event that I was leading a thing, and it's kind of invigorating. Yeah, when you can get people to react and move, and and you're up there with 4,000 people. Let's see if I can get them to all look left. So it's kind of fun. But then once you realize that you can use that opportunity to deliver a message, and if you take it seriously and do it well, you can affect so many people at one time. So I think the efficiency of it also excites me.
Yeah, you've always been a very good, poised, calm public speaker, and I think you hit the nail on the head. If you enjoy doing it, if you did that one right off the bat when you were in '92 or whenever, and you thought
flopped.
This is fun,
Yeah.
That's far different than most people's reaction when they get off the stage. They feel like that was horrible and I did horrible, and you probably got off the stage and thought I did a pretty good job, and that actually was a great time. So it leads into wanting to do more.
Yeah,
right?
if you're good at something, go for it. You know, and I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I believe I'm strong in that area, so I enjoy it. And I did a Dale Carnegie course years ago. They have little pieces, and I did the whole course, and there were 4 or 5 different speaking competitions within that course, and I did pretty well in those and just enjoyed it. And there was a poem that I did and got accolades for that. So it's just, you know, everybody likes to be on stage and get some recognition. It's not horrible,
Right.
but ultimately, like I said, it's just I enjoy it, and I enjoy when it works, and again, being able to speak to more than just one person at a time is beneficial.
Yeah.
I don't think most people like to be on stage.
Most people hate it.
Yeah.
It's one of the 3 most feared things. What is it? Dying, buying a house, and public speaking are the 3 most feared things to do.
Yeah, I'm like you though. I would rather be in front of on a stage in front of 4,000 people than in front of like 15 people, or trying to work my way into a small group.
Yeah, or work a room.
Work a room.
Yeah.
Give me one-on-one. Give me a very large crowd. I'm good there. But you try, and those networking events always felt like I was trying to force myself into a conversation. Never really loved that all that much.
Yeah, I agree. So.
I mean, you also look like Darth Vader, so that's probably why people don't come up to you.
Yeah.
He's a scary man right there. It's a scary man.
Like, why does nobody want to talk to me? I don't understand. I'm such a nice guy. You touched on that speaking engagement that was for a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
I know you've done a lot of work with nonprofits, so you can talk a little bit about some of those organizations you've worked with. But on a personal note, your life consistently has been influenced or touched by cancer. And so thought it would be a good thing for you to share of kind of not only some of those experiences throughout your life, why that has moved into some of the organizations that you've been a part of to try and help with that, but maybe some of the things that you've learned throughout all of that, life lessons, things like that you've learned throughout that process and that you could share with some of the listeners.
Yeah, cancer was a big part of my life. You know, we all have things we're passionate about, and I've been involved in youth organizations, and that's where we met initially, and it's always been a big thing. But the Cancer Society and the Relay for Life event is something that I got invited to as a corporate sponsor, 96 or something, a long time ago. God, these are just before you were born times.
I know.
Yeah.
We met with a client today, and she was like, I was born in '92, and I'm like, I was about to graduate high school. What's going on?
So I was invited, and I went there thinking, get involved, corporate sponsor, do a little business. Thought it was more like a business expo that happened to be with it. And I remember we had brochures, and we had buttons and pins, and we were there about half an hour. And I said, let's put all this stuff away. This isn't what this is about. These people are actually trying to cure a horrible disease. So I got involved in that for many years and got on the committee for that event, and then got on the board of directors for our local American Cancer Society. Got pretty embedded, did a lot of speaking. You know, we used to do a talk where we'd have everybody stand up. Sit down if you've been personally affected by cancer. Sit down if someone in your immediate family. You never get past a second cousin before everybody was sitting. So pretty powerful stuff, and the realization that it's something that affects a lot of people. And then unfortunately in 2001, I lost my mom to cancer, which was obviously horrible. I won't go into all those details, but what's interesting about it is, she's your mom. She's older than you. I'm 55. She was 4 years older than I am now, and I look at it now and say she was way too young. Okay. So after that, I honestly what happened is I kind of backed away a little bit. It just kind of I was not in the mood to do cancer stuff anymore. As much as I felt more passionate about it, I also was just not so it was this weird place in our lives. And then we got back into it. Then 2021 hit, and it became extremely personal, and just back up a little bit. The thing that I did where I spoke to thousands of people, there's at the Relay for Life, there's one part of it is called the Luminaria ceremony. Basically, there's some speeches, and then everybody lights a candle, walks around the track in honor of or in memory of people who've been affected by cancer. And I took over that event, and I said to the people, I said, this is a 24-hour event. People are walking and raising money, and there's games, and it's fun, and raffles and stuff. And I said, this is a 35, 40, 45-minute piece of it that I think it's okay to rip people's hearts out. I thought this is somewhere where I think you can get emotional, and I think we can use it to really drive home the cause and also raise money, because that was the goal of any charity event. And, we were raising $250,000 at that time. So I kind of reworked that and created a slideshow with pictures of people that were lost and little messages about them, and just try to make it really, really real. And then I was able to kind of grow that to where it got up to about 4,000 people, because people started coming to see the event, and it was really another proud moment the way I was, what I did with that. So I always talked about being a survivor and then doing this, and and at that event there's speakers and survivors speak, and I was always so involved in hugging survivors. And 2021 hits, I go for a routine colonoscopy. Everybody go get your routine checkups. And my doctor looks at me and goes, all right, didn't go so well. What does that mean? So long story short, I ended up with rectal cancer. And it's tough still. And that really changes you. In fact, Chris was one of the first people I told, one of the only people. I didn't want to be cancer boy. There's some other stuff going on where I just felt it was better that I kept it to myself. And then talked to my doctor and said, who I knew, we were on the board of directors together. It's great to have connections. I called the oncologist, number one guy at UCLA, and I said, hey, I got to get in. I got it. I go, when are you available? He goes, well, when can you come in tomorrow? I go, what do you have available? He goes, that's not what I asked. When can you come in? I said, oh, good to know people. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I had the best care in the world. He told me it's bad. Based on the image, it's bad. And he kept telling me it's bad. We're going to do some more tests and things. And I remember him looking at me and saying, you don't need to be so stoic. Those are his exact words. So I'm not very smart, so I had to Google stoic. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm not being stoic. I said, I get what you're telling me. I said, but you've also said you got to do some more testing. I said, I've spent a lot of time with this organization, raising money, finding cures, blah, blah. I said, let's go through the process. When you tell me what the end result is, then I'll worry at the level I need to worry at. Mm-hmm. So I spent a few days, nervous, whatever. Fast track the story. Ends up, it wasn't as bad as it looked. Still cancer, still bad. Mm-hmm. So they said, every reason to believe you're going to survive, but you're going to have a really big surgery and some pretty bad recovery. And went through all that. So had a surgery, ended up with a colostomy bag that they thought might be permanent, wasn't permanent. Again, thanks to all the research, thanks to all this stuff. I mean, imagine they literally pulled my intestine out of my body and attached a bag to it so my rectum can heal that they took out. I mean, somebody at some point had to go, let's try this. Right. Good thing we have funding. Right. So I look back and go, man, a lot of late nights, a lot of stuff, raised a lot of money, maybe $1 that I helped raise, maybe that speech created whatever they did to save me. Right. So the passion has grown. And I know we got involved with it 1 year as a group and stuff. So, yeah, to say cancer has been a big part of my life is kind of an understatement. So I am literally, what am I? I think I'm 22 days away, give or take, from my 3-year anniversary of when they took mine out.
That's incredible.
And clean bill of health ever since.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I have a big scar and another talk. So I got invited back to the American Cancer Society event to be a speaker, but not to motivate people, but to tell my story. And I was like, wow, never really wanted to be, I didn't want to wear the purple shirt. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to give this speech, but now that I'm here, so again, get your checkups. But what I told everybody is I have a big scar. And in life, things get tough sometimes, and there's issues, and we worry. Am I going to retire? What about my kids? So I just rubbed my scar. I just realized, could have been a lot worse. I'm still on the right side of the grass. And I told people whether it's an emotional scar or a physical scar, you've been through something in your life that's probably harder than what you're going through now. So just rub your scar and just kind of take all things into perspective and realize it could always be worse, and use that to help you get through what you're going through.
Yeah.
So.
And even for you, you've always been somebody since the day that I met you that I feel lives life to its fullest. You do a lot of stuff.
I'm tired.
You spend, I know, but you do a lot of activities. You spend a lot of time with your kids. Like you spend a lot of time with your wife. You know, you go on Facebook and social media, and you're going to see that you're out to dinners. You're at the beach riding bikes.
People think I don't work. Can you just tell everybody I actually do work a lot?
He works a lot, but he does. You spend a lot of time enjoying life and living life to the fullest. But even I, when you first came to me with that information, saw even you go, man, we need to live even more. Like we need to enjoy life even more.
Yeah.
Like, so would you say that was one of the biggest lessons, or one of the additional lessons from that whole thing, was just to maybe let some of the stress go and make sure that we're living in the moment and really enjoying life?
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were asking earlier, Robert, about how do you find that balance. And yeah, I have always tried to be balanced. I've always said coached my kids' soccer teams, never missed a cheer competition, never missed a recital, and that's a choice. That's a choice we make, And again, a lot of that comes from people that were older than me and smarter than me that said, I wish I would have, wish I would have, wish I would have. But yeah, in that moment when someone looks at you and says, just need to let you know, you might die.
Okay.
It changes things a lot. So I don't think I can't say that I've taken it to a whole new level. But I think I find myself outside looking at trees and just appreciating them.
Right.
And I'll just leave it at that, if that kind of
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. What other life lessons can you share? You've been around the block a couple times.
Live in the moment, enjoy what you have, but always strive for more. I think too many people just always strive for more, but don't enjoy and appreciate what they have. There's always going to be someone that has a little less than you that wishes, the guy with the 80-foot yacht wishes he had a 200-foot yacht. A guy with my boat wishes he had your boat, But you know what? I have a hell of a lot of fun on mine.
Totally.
So there's a ton of life lessons. And, I gave some of them with the, health and stuff. And, and I appreciate you mentioning the social media stuff. Been wanting to share what I've been through, been wanting to share what my clients have taught me, trying to figure out how to take that information and put it out there, whether it be a book and social media seems like the ideal environment. And, my kids tell me, or my wife more than anybody else, that's dumb. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say about how they should, whatever, So everybody's critical and judgmental sometimes. And not that my wife's critical and judgmental, but what are you wasting your time for? Just work more. But, it feels good to be able to have something that I think can help others and have an opportunity to share it. And by no means ever, and if I ever come across this way, please give you both permission to slap me. By no means ever do I want to think to myself that I'm so good everybody should listen to me. Okay. But the reality is, I have had some experiences, and I've had some success in business. I've had some success in life. I think my kids are okay. I have a good relationship with my wife. There's some things that aren't great, but I can share both of those. One of the messages I said, I had a horrible week, and here's how I'm going to get through it. So I think it's we're all put here for this much time. I always talk about the dash. Born, dead, dash in the middle. How are you going to live your dash? And if we can live part of our dash by helping other people improve their dash, kind of have to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're not following Jerry, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Facebook, I don't do a lot of that stuff. I'm just trying to keep Facebook just pictures of food and stuff.
So more TikTok and Instagram.
TikTok and Instagram, and it's just my name, Jerry Citarella. You can find me, build it up so I can continue to do it and make it worth it. We're getting some decent followers, decent listeners, and I appreciate you pushing that.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing, there's always going to be people that are like, you're wasting your time. Nobody wants to hear that. And I always go back to the fact that, you might be wrong. There might be one person. If I hit one person,
just one,
and influence their life and make it better, then what was the harm in me putting this information out there and sharing it with the world? So keep doing what you're doing. You've got good information.
Appreciate
out
it.
there.
Yeah, but I think it just naturally comes across as, oh, look how great you think you are because you're telling everybody, and it's hard to do it. I feel like, I turn the thing on, like, I'm really just going to talk to a camera and hope 20,000 people watch me tell them how to spend their day tomorrow? How egotistical am I?
Right.
But once you can get past that and go for it, just a funny story, and then I think we're probably close to the end of this thing. My daughter was at school. She was at Boise State. She switched schools, went back to Boise State to visit, and a bunch of her old friends are like, "We watch your dad all the time." She goes, "What?" Yeah. She goes, "Yeah, we put a projector up on the wall, or we put him on the TV. We watch all of his messages, and we follow him all the time. His information's so good." And she's like, "Dad, I guess you're kind of a college celebrity now."
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm like, cool. Yeah, so, it's fun.
I post workout videos sometimes, and I had somebody comment underneath it all of a sudden, "Hey, my son watches all of your videos, and you're kind of his like idol right now. He wants to, do." And again, my wife sometimes
how do you not
why
do it?
why are you doing this? And I'm like, well, there's one kid out there right now that might be, changing the way he eats or working out a little bit harder, trying to get into shape because he knows me and he likes what I'm putting out there. So to me, good enough for me.
And there's so much bad information that has an agenda behind it, given by people who are not qualified to give it, that
it does taint it.
You know where you are, and I know where you are, and I know how much you know about diet and training and how consistent you've been and how good you are, and your form's good and your discipline is good, more than anybody I know. You're the right guy to do it. So again, I'm not going to do a workout thing because I haven't trained in 3 years. I used to. So we all have to, but I know I could probably do some workout, make some money, sell some products, so I think as long as you keep it genuine, even if it doesn't work, at least it's still coming from the right place. And if it's something that you genuinely have something to share that's valuable, what's it going to hurt?
Yeah. And I think your videos come across very genuine, and I'm just trying to share some insight and help some people out with whatever they're dealing with, difficult times or just how to live their life or whatever it may be. It all comes across that way to me.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll shoot a video later.
Yeah. Well, you're shooting one right now.
Yeah, there you
go. Shameless plug. So Prosperitas Financial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's lots of companies out there, lots of different options.
Not shameless at all. Yeah. Valuable and needed.
But, a little insight into why you decided to join us versus go to some of the other places that you could have decided to go to, and just kind of your experience up to this point with working with us and the firm.
Well, as you know, and I'm going to reword this for you, it's even bigger for me. I wasn't deciding to go somewhere else. I decided to leave my own company that you were with. We were together a long time, and I knew you were always going to do something on your own, which you should have. You're qualified to do it. I knew you wanted to have your own thing. So when you came to me and shared the story and told me what it was, I had my own company for 14 years, 13 years, whatever. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. So I think it even speaks more loudly than someone who's unhappy and trying to figure something out. I had a successful company that was running well, everything was going well, and it was mine. So I just loved what you were doing and wanted to be a part of it. And I think more importantly, the stuff that you have created with all the in-house experts and the college planning and the attorneys and everything that's there, and just the feel and the more efficient and more cost efficient money management and honestly better returns than we were doing where I was before. I think it was just going to be better for my clients. So unselfishly, I made a decision to wrap mine up, close up my shop, put my name in the basement or in the safe, and come along because I thought
on your wall.
Yeah, it is. I kept it. Yeah, because I thought it was the best thing for my clients, and then ultimately I did feel for me from the standpoint of my own business that it would benefit me as well, and honestly, it's done both. So I appreciate you making this leap, and I don't know if people don't have a clue what it takes, but in our industry with the regulations and the issues and the compliance and it's a big deal to do what you're doing. So better you than me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it, and a couple more years you'll look as old as I do. But no, I'm keep going, and I've been around this business a long time, and there's good people and bad people that are in our business, just in general. Of the good people that do it and of the good companies that are doing it, we are definitely, I'd say, in the top 5 to 10%. There's others that are good. I'm not going to say we're the only good company out there. Right. But what you've created and where we're going and what we offer our clients and the way we do it and the mindset, and the people that we have, we're definitely in that upper echelon, and I'm just proud to be here.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we are going to have some fun.
We are. We're already having fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm asking everybody a handful of questions, and I'm going to take down your information. And at the end,
I knew this was coming, so I wrote it down because I'm bad with numbers.
The people that answer the questions and get them the closest, there's going to be a prize at the end.
So we're going to count jelly beans, kind of thing.
Yeah. So we've got advisors in one field, and we've got strategic partners that are competing in a separate field. So there's different questions for each. And here are your questions. You've already seen them, but give me your answers.
Yeah,
so,
now that I know there's actually a contest, I'm going to unround the numbers and make them a little bit more specific.
This is for a prize, and it's going to be a decent prize. So this is no joke. I'm doing something nice for you guys. Where will the S&P 500 be by the end of this year?
3,618.
3,618. Like it. What about the NASDAQ?
I'm gonna round down on this one. 17,452.
Okay. And the Dow?
Who cares? It's only 30 stocks. We shouldn't watch it anyway.
It's a good answer, but I need a number. That won't get you any points.
That's the media's index because it's a big number.
It is true. I totally agree with you.
32,000. You know what? My birthday's 7/7, so I'm going to go 32,777.
Excellent. And before I ask you the last question, are all of those up or down for the year?
Those are all up from where they are, and generally somewhere in the area of about 8% from where we are now.
Excellent. Love it. And who's going to be the next president?
Ooh, man, I wasn't expecting that one. I wish we knew who the candidates were for sure. So, it's a tough one. I want to say Trump because I believe where we are now, but I have a hunch it might end up being Gavin Newsom. Do I have to pick one?
Ooh, you're going Gavin. You're going with my conspiracy theory that I tell everybody that Gavin's going to.
I don't think Michelle Obama wants to do it. I think we all can understand and accept, not politically, that Biden shouldn't do it. I just don't know how they would get him out of the position without it being something huge.
Have you and I not talked about this? This is my whole thing. I've been telling everybody. He comes out at some point, and they find a way to put Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on in getting him out because of we won't get there.
Right.
So I'm going to say Trump is going to be our next president.
Okay, I'm going to give you, just because you said it, like a bonus point if for some reason
Gavin Newsom
pops in, because I don't think anyone else is going to pick that. So there's going to be a little something there if that ends up happening.
All right.
Because that is pretty interesting that you said that. Those are them. That's all I have for you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
By the end of 2025, I'm going to write this down. By the end of 2025, how many financial advisors will be a part of Prosperitas Financial? I don't want to do 2024. That's too soon. It takes a while. There's a cycle.
So we have 12 financial advisors currently, and I believe we are probably somewhere in the ballpark of, I would say we're between 30 to 35 financial advisors by the end of 2025.
Pick a number between 30 and 35.
What do you think?
32.
32.
I was going to say 32.
Okay, so we'll go with 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Manifest
Excellent.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Jerry, thank you for coming on the podcast again as a guest this time.
It's kind of nice to spend time like this versus our daily grind and running by each other in the halls between meetings.
I feel like we pass each other a lot, but it's more of a bye type situation.
Yeah, you know what? We don't talk a lot during the day because we're both extremely busy with our clients, but I'll always consider you one of my best friends.
Appreciate that. You as well.
That's awesome.
We've been through a lot together. Yeah.
He was looking at me when he said that, by the way. I don't know why.
That's fine.
Kidding.
He shook my hand.
Jerry Citarella, go find him on Instagram, TikTok, at Jerry Citarella. And thank you again for coming on the show. And hopefully we have you on again.
Yeah, I'm here all day.
Love it. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.